Yes, too.
It's Meta World 2.
That's not how you see chat on there. That's not how you see chat. This Skype window is so counterintuitive. Man.
Okay, I'm going live as soon as I can get a thumbnail. Yep, okay, mine are on, I hope. So, say when. Well, hello everybody. We're sorry about a bit of a black screen there, but welcome to the Inworld review, where it is now March. I'm not sure where we're marching to. Yes, we're marching into the 19th of March. We've been away for a couple of weeks, and oh gosh, golly, we're so glad to be back. It's amazing what happens on Sundays when you're sitting around waiting to go live, and you think, oh dear, we're not doing a show today. As you know, we've been sort of reformulating our sort of stuff here, and typically we take the 2-week break just when all the news starts landing with a vengeance. So we are back for this week. I'm not sure about next week, but we'll be back. We've sort of more or less made great progress on our new arrangements and our new look. So don't worry, we're not going far away. We'll have a new set and maybe a sponsor. So all that will be coming up. As for today, there has been quite a lot of news in the intervening couple of weeks. I'm going to go through a lot of it as the show progresses. We bring our guests on. But the primary things that have happened is that earlier this week, of course, Linden Labs, in conjunction with the online streaming service OnLive, launched SL Go, which is basically a video streaming version of Second Life where you can sort of participate as you go. I'm going to come back to that. Also, the week before, some of us are rather privileged to have what they call a meet and greet with Ebbe Altberg, Ebbe Linden, who is the new CEO. And it came as much as a surprise to many of us to find out that although at first we thought he'd appeared out of the blue, in fact, he is an old-time Second Lifer in the sense that he helped Philip and whatever with the beta testing of the original. And he and his son are familiar with Second Life. He's been out of world for some time, but he certainly knows his stuff. And he seems to have some very positive views about sort of, it's the residents, it's the customers that matter, and keen to establish more links with in-world things and bring back Linden's, not the money, but the people's in world. So we'll see about all that as it goes. Now, I just have to do a bit of behind the scenes organization to bring our final guest in. So what I'm actually going to do is hand over to Tara and ask her to start the show with her roundup of the week. So over to you, Tara.
Well, thank you, Mel. Talk about not being ready. This is one of those days, I think. Anyway, greetings, everyone. Good to be back with you, and good to have the show back. Yes, Mel's kind of hit some high points. The only other notable high point I can think of is in the last couple of weeks is the fact that the Jira is now open again in a way that it hasn't been open for a couple of years. And I have not had an opportunity to go in and look and see how that's flying. I don't know. Somebody may have some opinions about that, but I think it was one of their brilliant, low-hanging fruit, quick win actions on the part of Ebbe to take that step. Glad to see it. It was one of the things I think when that happened, when they shut it down and you could post a new item, or you could post what you thought might be a new item, but you couldn't comment on existing ones or add a me too or further information. Are you hearing me?
Actually, I don't know whether it's just me, but I'm actually I was just bringing Maria in, but I seem to be getting very bad feedback on your sound. I don't know about anybody else. Pet, how's the sound on Tara? Okay, fine. Okay, Yes, I've turned it off completely, to be honest. So it's not that.
No. Oh, I beg your pardon.
It's on Skype. I'm getting it, but anyway, I'm told from the channel that it's fairly good so far. So I'll just carry on. I'll just have to bear with you and my headset, or whatever it is that's doing the.
Whatever that's doing it. Yes, yes. Okay. Well, anyway, the Jira is back. It's so now I'm completely derailed on that one. I thought that was a very smart move to re-enable that for real interchange, and I definitely have the sense, certainly from Ebbe's ongoing Twitter stream and participation, that he's really listening. And I have a sense in World, and the only way I can back this up is what I'm seeing is increased traffic around Chilbo in the last couple of weeks. Is perhaps there's more energy around the grid, but other people may have different thoughts about that. So we'll come back around. We got lots of good guests to babble about this. Anyway, now I need to introduce today's wonderfulness in the show and tell department. The latest arcade gotcha event started about a week ago, and I was actually able to get in yesterday. And the real find this year, I think, the showstopper is Nylon Pinkney's Copycats, which are a collection of artworks that feature cats being done by famous artists. And I'm confident that Petlove has her camera set up so she can shift over at an appropriate moment to view a part of the collection, which I have scarfed up so far, which includes Country Cats, The Howl, Unrequited Love, Picasso, one called Time to Eat. That's the Howl. Well, I can't tell you what she's doing very good at figuring out what these are. Vincent von Meow and Creation of the First Cat. And we have a little prize today. And this will go to the first person who IMs me in World with the correct answer. And the question is, who is the painter of the original version upon which Creation of the First Cat is a send-up? And the person who does that will get their very own Picasso to hang on their wall in World. So so there you have it. These are just wonderful fun. I have a few more I'm going to have to enough. And SL Go? Yes, SL Go. And every time I see SL Go, I want to put an O. I want to put an extra O. What? Am I still there? Hello? I trust you're hearing me. I was just hearing Petlove briefly. Oh, okay. Okay, well, I don't know what you missed. Anyway, I was just going to comment on SL Go. I keep wanting to put another O in between the L and the G. Anyway, and I'm hearing myself coming back now from Mal. I keep wanting to put another O. Would you mute yourself, Mal, please? Oh dear, there. This show is turning into a bit of a comedy of errors. All right. What I was going to comment on OnLive. What's interesting to me, just okay. Interesting is, and perhaps to be kept in mind, OnLive in 2012 kind of had a major collapse, a very public insolvency, which saw the departure of the founder and a complete changeover with a new chief investor, Gary Lauder. And basically, they're endeavoring to do a major overhaul and a renewal. So I find that kind of interesting in light of the SL Go release. It's streaming technology, and apparently one of the issues that they really one of the walls they ran into that caused the initial round of difficulties was the fact that there was no way for people to save stuff in the cloud. So if you had an expensive game, and I'm not speaking of Second Life here specifically, Second Life, but of other games that they were offering with their system, there was no way to save your settings or your position or any of that kind of stuff. So adding that has been one of the major things that they needed to accomplish. But I guess the other thing to me that this brings to mind is they're obviously in a testing what works as far as their business plan and money earning situation. And as far as I'm concerned, one of the elephant in the room at the moment with SL Go is the dollar signs attached thereto. So I'm going to not comment further on that, and we're going to come back around. But I think the current price tags are way out of line for that. And I know there's lots more, and we've got a ton of guests. And so I know the other thing I was going to mention. The death of the founder of Meta, associated with Bitcoin, but associated with Linden Labs, Linden Dollars, going back quite a number of years. And I'm hoping that Maria Korolov, who has just joined us and is going to be talking about, may have some comments about that. Anyway, on that note, I'm going to shut up and hand back to Mel. So back to you, Mel.
Well, thank you, Tara. And indeed, it hopefully has come back to me, because I lost my audio and I missed most of what was said there. But I seem to be back now. It's the usual sort of Skype glitches and stuff like that. So yes, sorry that I vanished. I also had to bring our final guest in, so we were sort of fiddling around there. Quick note from Daniel Voyager's blog. He mentions this week that he's been trying out the Inworld's Info app. Apparently there is an app at the Google Play Store called Inworld's Info, which allows residents of the Inworld's grid to, I guess, communicate offline when they're not in world. The sort of thing we still very much need in Second Life. We also have variable regions coming to open soon. I'll leave that to Maria in a minute. And there is a new version of the Radagast client, version 2.14, was released literally a week ago or so. And this basically is a text-based portal to Second Life that actually runs on your desktop. It's very lightweight. It's nothing as elaborate as the OnLive contraption, even though you can get sort of still Petra refreshes sort of every minute or so. But it's really designed if you want to actually communicate in Second Life at times when you might not be able to get the full environment up. So we have I have a fair bit more, but I'm going to go through these various links once we've sort of got the conversation going. Oh, sorry, I'm looking. I'm I'm looking at the back channel chat already. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to leap straight in and introduce today's guests. Now, you probably be familiar with them all. First off, I've got Maria Korolov from Hypergrid Business. Welcome, Maria.
Thank you,
And
Mel, for hearing me, for having me. Can you hear me okay?
yes, I can hear you now. I thought we had another glitch there for a second,
Well,
but
I had to unmute my microphone, and I realized that halfway through my sentence.
right, yeah, I'm always doing that myself. Actually, we're falling apart here. We're only just back. We're getting our sea legs after a 2 week
I still
break.
don't know what time it is.
No, well, actually, the biggest laugh we've been having here before we came online is, of course, I advertised a show going out at noon Second Life time. And that means I'm an hour earlier than normal here because we don't put our clocks whichever way they're going. I don't know which for another 3 weeks. So I'm now 1 hour earlier. It's 7 in the UK instead of 8. If you see what I mean. But the funniest thing of all is that Linden Labs forgot to change their clocks. And therefore, Linden Lab has been on, well, I don't know what time they've been on, whatever the time zone east of Pacific is. They've been on it all day. So even SLT wasn't right. The only thing I am sure of is it's just gone noon Pacific. And for those of people who've just logged into Second Life, they have actually finally corrected the viewer. But all morning, all day, it has been at the wrong time, which is just, hilarious. We don't know whether we're coming or going. But yes, that's what happens when they put the clocks back. Okay, well, I'll come back to you in a minute, Maria. I'll also introduce another friend of the channel. Next, Maria, we've got Feenan Korolov, or rather Kevin Feenan, depending on which way we look at it. Hi, Kevin.
Good afternoon.
And welcome back to the channel for you too. We will be covering a little about virtual worlds for best practices in education, which of course is barely a month away. And Kevin, I'm sure you've got much to say on the recent events on the grid with new CEOs and OnLives and all sorts of other mysterious stuff.
Oh, we might have one or two comments.
I thought that might be the case. And finally, we've got a really old friend of the channel here. Back when we used to do this as a webcam show, he was on almost every week. And he IM'd me in the week saying sort of, I'll be there on Sunday. I want to rant. It's none other than Crap Mariner. Hi there, Crap.
Hey, how you doing, Mel?
I'm doing okay. We're looking forward to the rant, and hopefully you're ready to stay for the rest of the conversation too.
Rawr, absolutely, I'm ready for it.
And next to Crap, we are joined once again by our wonderful camera woman as well, Petlove Petshop, who's stepped in today again. So welcome back, Pet. And of course, we're hopefully going to be seeing quite a bit more of you in the future as we get our new sort of systems up and running. But you never know. We'll be announcing that when it happens. We're not going to speculate on all that stuff at the moment. Okay, I think to get us going, I don't know how long you intend to stay, Crap. Are you quite happy to stay for the whole show, or did you really just want to deliver a spiel? And
No, I'm good. I have nothing planned except a new grocery store in town, and I want to see how much more they charge than anybody else.
Ah, yes, the usual story. Yeah. Well, you know what they're like. For the opening week, they'll be cheaper than anybody else. And then suddenly you'll get into the habit and whoops, just go.
I'll just dive in their dumpsters and get the good stuff.
Yeah, fair enough. Right, well, as I mentioned at the top of the show, I mean, there is other stuff going on at the moment, particularly in the open grid. But one of the main things that I think we'll start our discussion with, if it's okay, is OnLive, or rather something that came online this week called SL Go. Now, immediately after this show finishes, you will actually be will be broadcasting a special 45-minute Q&A session, which Safia and Elric of Designing Worlds hosted after their own show. and with somebody from OnLive asking audience questions. And so if you're interested in the technical side of what SLGO is all about, then just stay tuned after this show finishes. But our focus here really is to discuss it as news and whether it's a good thing or a bad thing. Personally, I think anything like this that comes along that offers new avenues of opportunity and everything else is, broadly speaking, a good thing. In terms of Second Life, though, I wonder how much traction this will get. Firstly, you are over and beyond whether you are a free or paying customer of Second Life, you will actually have to pay to use this service. And this service basically presents your Second Life viewers as streaming video from the cloud. And it has a simultaneous interface uplink that allows you to do the things you normally do in Second Life. Nothing really is on your machine because all the graphics are coming down rather like a video stream, like we're doing now with this show, indeed. The system itself, however, and I put it to the OnLive people, may actually open up some new opportunities because by making the virtual world a bit like a video stream, it means I could have a link underneath the channel you're watching this program on right now saying join us in World, and it would take you to another video stream where you could actually sit in the audience here at Chilbo and participate with us as if you were in Second Life. It could be free if we were prepared to pay OnLive for the service. On the other hand, it could be it just goes to an OnLive screen and makes you log in. But long term, down the line, there is some potential there, and that, in fact, I did raise that in the Q&A that's coming later. So it's a mixed bag, really. Now, one of the things that's slightly upsetting about this is that it is probably great PR for Second Life, and it will actually maybe bring a lot of gamers and people who kind of like streaming from the cloud into Second Life. It also provides a way for people to get into Second Life when they don't have a desktop machine or a system that can cope with the high end graphics requirements. It will, for example, work on a low-end laptop. So long as you can stream video, you can stream this. The problem is it is very tied to Linden Lab. They have their own version of the Linden Lab viewer, and obviously as a consequence of that, you can't hypergrid out. You can use OnLive only to go to Second Life with Second Life Go. It's not Metaverse Go, so to speak. And I can't see the open simulators at the moment sort of being anybody involved there, sort of coughing up the money and the infrastructure to enable this. But who knows down the line? So those are my thoughts on the issue. I think let's see. Let's go first to Maria. Maria. I'm sure you've got some thoughts on this.
I do. I think this is a jury-rigged temporary solution to the problem of we don't have a lightweight web-based viewer for OpenLife or OpenSim. And still viewer folks have been working on this for a few months. It's been delayed and still being delayed. Second Life, as far as I know, hasn't done anything in this regard. And this is what we need. The OnLive system, basically what it does is it takes a virtual, not a real computer, but a virtual computer, a separate virtual computer for each user, and runs the viewer on it. So not only are you having the servers running on the Second Life side, not only do you have the browser running or whatever the software is on the end customer side, you also have the viewer running in the middle on the OnLive side. So you have three different computers or virtual computers, in this world. It's a cumbersome solution. It adds extra path in the middle there. It adds significant cost because you have to have this virtual computer for every viewer out there. Now, maybe every viewer out there. Now, maybe group them together or something. Like you can group multiple regions into one server. Maybe you can group multiple viewers into one server, depending how big your computer is. How many instances of a viewer can you run in it?
I think every viewer is a separate instance.
Well, yeah, but
it has to be. Yeah.
No. What I mean is, like say you have a computer at your desktop. How many viewers can you run on it simultaneously? Can you have Impudence running on it and the Second Life viewer running and the Firefox? See, that's what I mean.
Okay.
Now,
Fine.
if you have a big enough computer or big enough like virtual server, maybe you could run more than 2 or 3 of these at once. But that still means that somewhere in the cloud, you've got virtual computers. They're running a copy of the viewer for each separate user. And this is why it costs money, because it's not scalable, it's not efficient, it's overkill because you have this heavy viewer. I mean, so you get all the 100% functionality maybe if they figure out how to save things. But you know, if you're looking for a lightweight web experience, do you really need all the functionality? And if you have and so that's why I'm thinking this is a short-term solution. We have HTML5, we have 3D graphics in the web right now. We've got examples of virtual worlds running in a browser. Cloud Party was a great example, even though they couldn't, you know, figure out a way to make a. So the technology is there. We just don't have the willpower. All that's missing is the willpower, and maybe there's a business reason for it. They don't want too many people coming through these lightweight viewers. They want people who are committed, who are invested in buying land, invested in buying in-world content, and maybe they're wary about people with lightweight viewers. Maybe they're not going to spend as much money. Maybe it's more casual. I don't know what their thinking is, but what we need is a lightweight web viewer for all these worlds. Anyway, that's my 5 cents on this.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I knew people, Dan Voyager, Lapiska, and had been, you know, beta testing a mobile client, but we never got any hints that it was anything other than some kind of lightweight client. So when we find out that it's OnLive, which rather resembles the Gakai beta that they ran a couple of years ago, which I found very good. It was a similar thing. It was the principle was a stream that you interacted with rather than a world you interacted with, is probably the best way I can put it.
And a similar failure.
Yes, well, exactly. They tried it for a while and then it sort of disappeared. So, Crap, let's move to you. Your thoughts on all this, OnLive particularly.
Oh,
yeah, this is where we get you around.
I'll take a step. I'll leave the attacking of the messengers in a little bit, but I listened to the Dragster show. I listened to the usually unlistenable Prim Perfect Designing World's Sophia show, and the people over at OnLive tried to make the case and for the cost, and their excuse was the NVIDIA render farms, whatever render stacks that they have up in the cloud, those are not cheap. I used to work at a server farm, and that hardware, we were just getting into it. That stuff is expensive. It pumps out a lot of heat. You have to pay for a lot of cooling, and it takes a lot of power. And it's hard to repurpose that stuff for things other than graphics. And also, they're trying to colo near where Linden Lab has their server farms. And Linden Lab, I don't think they have the best deals right now for space. If they do, I guess they moved a lot of their stuff out of San Francisco for the simulators, but for things that are important internally to SL, some grid services, I think they still have around there, some accounting functions and all that. But if you're going to colo near an expensive person, you're going to have to pay expensive. It's what Wall Street does with their automated transaction stuff. You try to get as close to where the commerce is taking place. But
I think that was a happy coincidence. They said they were moving servers or something, and they saw a crowd of people wearing.
That couldn't have been a coincidence. If you're going to render something off of somebody's service, you locate close. I mean, no, that's no accident. You ask, and with the partnership involved, you say, "Where are your servers? We'd like to render these for you close up." No, and I'm not saying it's a conspiracy. No, that's a good business decision. But if at least with if SL Go fails, at least they can redeploy that hardware. If hopefully they haven't, the OnLive people haven't put all their chips in one stack. But um, I, I I think I see if you have a crappy computer and you want to pay for good visual quality experience, okay, this might be it until you can afford a decent rig. But why not just save up or pay installment plan for a decent rig?
Yeah.
There are some great deals for inexpensive systems that are just life support for graphics card, and I think you'd pull it off. If you're traveling, use Lumia. You don't need the full
Yeah.
graphical experience. If you want to show off to your friends and all that, well, if your friends don't have a killer gaming rig,
Mm.
why tease them with the great graphics and all that, and then they have a crappy system? You're not going to sell this idea for them, and that's what Linden Lab marketing is for. You just stop doing their job for them. But I think that you're going to see announce, a spin, drama, backpedal. They're going to reduce prices. They'll reduce prices again. But my biggest complaint with this was the lead up, a few days lead up to this. There was a lot of hype of big announcement coming, big announcement
Yeah.
coming.
Yes.
Sophia, Daniel was the worst of all, and a lot of them
Uh,
were going big announcement coming. These people know the SL community, I think, know it
mm.
well enough to know that this is a lead balloon. This isn't going to fly. And a lot of people posted in the comments of, is it lower prices? Is it more groups? Is it one? I think ZZ Bottom was freaking out over, are they gulagging the adult grid to separate it, and
Mm.
all this big announcement coming and no info, and people are freaking out, which is what they do. And
Yeah.
then it turned out to be this non-starter, this
Mm.
we're already paying for access to the grid if you're premium, and oh, by the way, you're gonna have to pay more to access it with a decent graphics, instead of
Uh,
them cleaning up the OpenGL libraries, cleaning up the viewer, streamlining it. Instead, there's a lot of legacy code. Instead of improving the avatar, instead of efficiencies,
mm.
they go into this. And a lot of stuff was cleaned up under Rod's regime, but
Mm.
I found it absolutely abhorrent and disgusting that these people were so-called SL media were trolling the user base, trying to get them to, oh, it's big thing coming, big thing, you got to watch. And it turns out to be shit.
Yeah, I
So,
mean, I have to say I was surprised too because I didn't know what the
yeah,
big thing coming was for sure, but
yeah,
I got an IM from somebody called Hamlet, or who was
yeah.
never talks to me as well ever, but a couple of days beforehand, saying, I'm working with over and I want to sign you up. I'll give you free access and blah blah blah. And
Yeah.
we went through a whole rigmarole, and he's saying, it's on the iPad. And it was only after
Tim.
days going here,
Yeah.
there, and everywhere I realised it wasn't on the iPad. I needed to go out and get myself a cheap what do we call it, Android
Android. Yeah.
tabloid to actually try it out with. So there was all this palaver, and I thought it was going to be something really great, and I was
Yeah.
impressed technically with what they've achieved, but you would have thought, or I would have thought, that Linden Lab and indeed OnLive would have held off the launch of something like this, at least till it was available on all mobile platforms. That
No,
it was really misleading, implying that it was going to be on iOS, and it wasn't.
I think it was.
Um,
I think the overall hype was misleading. That this was going to be a big announcement and something that
mm,
affected everyone. And there was one good that came out of it. Okay, Linden Lab uses the Agile or Scrum method of development, where you have a cycle, you pick 2, 3 weeks development cycle,
yeah,
and you come up with deliverables. And it's a good way of doing things. We use it where I work, and
mm,
I'm a part of a Scrum team, and we get stuff out, and we kind of roll and roll and roll until we try to build it up and demo and build.
yeah,
And also, you have to have a backlog, a thing that your stakeholders find important. Okay, so this mobile client may have been on Hamlet's wish list, but Lumia is out there and other things that are serviceable, but not for, oh boy, nobody's backlog says we want to pay more.
mm,
So this one, I don't think this one is not Eve's fault. This one's been in the works for a while. This was a Rod
mm,
thing. This was a gaming attitude. But with all that crap aside and all the SL media types who hype everything that they get an early exclusive on, you tell them it'll be April next month and they'll all go all April crazy. But if you go back to the post by these SL media types, Daniel and his trolling, Sophia with her trolling, Hamlet, whomever, and all the posts that are people's reactions.
All these folks are in the channel at the moment. They're probably logging out rapidly, but
Well, the hell with them. I mean, they know what they did, and they should
speech.
feel guilty, and maybe they should learn from this. But look for all the what do you think the next announcement will be posts, or the reaction posts that people have been responding with. Make a list of all the things people thought it would be: lower prices, Avatar 2.0, more reliable sims, better viewer, integrating stuff from Firestorm into the SL viewer that people actually use it for. Those kind of things that people want, their pet peeves. And then make that a list. Now, once you've got that list, that's your new backlog. That's the things that your customers really want, the ones who are passionate and pay and visit, and they care so much that they're angry with the fact that it's not them. And you take that and you make that your new backlog, and all this other creepy little goofy stuff, the portable, there are already people with portable solutions, and this SL Go thing, you think that's going to be, no, you make that your backlog. That's your priority list. That's the good thing that came out of it. Linden Lab now knows without a doubt what people really, truly want with that list.
Yeah. I mean, it's his ultimate, like we're discussing now, the reaction to things afterwards that, count rather than the thing. But oddly enough, Daniel Voyager, who's on the channel talking now, is actually agreeing with you totally. He's actually made the point that Lumia is great, has open SIM access, and is available, on Android too. That is a simple client, but it does its job. But he also pointed out that the beta testers, and presumably the people who helped with the initial PR of this, didn't know anything about the pricing model or anything else until the announcement was made. They were just told it was free and to test it. So
free to them, but
free to them, exactly. Yeah.
I was a person that was approached with a very generic, we're looking at mobile, solutions for SL, whatever, would you like to help beta this? And it came from Linden Lab. So I got that message too. I said, no, I will not beta test for a for-profit company that still has the terms of service the way it is, 2.3, which is essentially they can resell anything that you put up here. They claim right to it, and they can do whatever they want with it right in there. They can exploit any way they wish in any way, shape, or form. Go roll back the claims on my content, and I might help you test yours. I'm a pretty damn good tester.
It's a
and I do. Yeah,
it's a two-way street. Two-way street.
Yeah, but San Francisco is notorious one ways and for being streetcars in the way of any traffic that's reasonable. And I am just outraged. The only person whose review that I think was close to balanced was an RFA. Strawberry Singh had some criticisms in hers, but the rest were just no interest, no depth to them whatsoever. And if they were picking a group for rubber stamping this and providing marketing puff pieces, I think for the most part they picked the right people to bless their idiotic.
I must admit, I know what you mean about lack of substance. I mean, for example, I get so many feeds out the day, and I tweet Daniel Voyager's blog quite often simply because he's often first with the news. But I flatly refuse to tweet every subsequent blog that is just reprinting a press release.
Well, most of his stuff is a collection of other people's stuff anyway. It's a retweet. Daniel the retweeter, the aggregator. I mean, he serves a purpose as an aggregator, but for original investigation, original material, it's just like, no.
Well, it's like
if you're looking for analysis that's well reasoned, you go to an RFA. If you're looking for Johnny Come Lately, and then Hamlet drinking a beer with someone.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, yeah, that got Rod a lot of mileage there, huh? The moment that Ebbe has a beer with Hamlet, that's when that's when it's okay. Who's the next guy?
Well, New World Notes always seems to find news that's already 2 weeks old. And I tweeted, because I'm an aggregator. I used to write, but I don't now. I just fire off the links, and
Yeah.
I choose hopefully the best links, the ones with meat and content and thought behind them.
Yeah, with Maria,
like
Maria
Maria
does original. She does original reporting.
Yeah.
Others who do original reporting or add some value to it.
Exactly.
But the aggregators, the repeaters, the whatever, even Imperfect occasionally put stuff in there. But for the most part, you're not dealing with journalists or reporters. You're dealing with aggregators. And Drudge, it's kind of like Drudge. Drudge collects up links from others, but there's very little original there ever since the Monica thing. And it happens. But you got to call it what it is.
Don't give me any particular credit on this because I was just working. I mean, I had a lot of deadlines in my day job, and I totally missed this whole thing. It totally went right past me. I saw the OnLive thing, and I said, "Old news." Totally ignored it.
Well, you probably thought it was a non-starter anyway.
Yeah, but it wasn't a conscious decision. It was like, oh yeah,
Well, I think, of course, OnLive is not news itself. I mean, they were testing services with the worst possible source, actually, BT over here a couple of years ago. To bring games and stuff streaming, onto British ISP service. So they're not new in the game. It's actually a surprise to find out that the guys behind it are actually avid Second Lifers. But
well, I don't, Mal, you may have what you may have missed was my earlier note that OnLive is just going through a kind of a major relaunch after they collapsed in 2012.
Yeah.
So that I think, and the whole top tier of the company has changed.
Oh yeah,
from what it was. So and they they had a flashy launch in 2007 or whenever it was, and 2 years later, people figured out, no, this isn't accomplished. This isn't, we're not willing to pay for what we don't get that we want.
Yeah, I think
this is part of the relaunch.
It's a very subtle thing, but if it hadn't been for the that PR onslaught, for better or worse, from Linden Lab, I would not probably have clicked on to this because OnLive make an announcement of their own. But of course, OnLive seems old hat to me, and I might not have noticed the press release from OnLive. It was because of Linden's that I noticed it, if you see what I mean. But anyway, I mean, I also wonder if it might have been brought online slightly quicker than mentioned, not only because the iOS version isn't ready, but because Ebbe, the wonderful new CEO, does actually seem to be trying to move fast on sort of, it's like he's walked in there and he's trying to bring everything that was in the works already underway. He's brought back the Jira, as you mentioned earlier. I didn't catch that bit. And, he's basically seems to be quite a fast mover initially as well.
He is trying to get stuff that have been either sitting or things that are waiting, getting them moving. I think the Jira move is one of those things that people have been wanting. And it's one of the easy and early things on that stack of items that people have been screaming for. Now, bringing back last names, the other stuff, the dead horses that people keep beating, is going to happen. But there are some things that they can do that, other quick fixes that will resolve things. And the one other good thing about OnLive and this SL Go, you have to sign up and put your credit card in there, which that will deter griefers and that will deter folks like that. The problem is, of course, I'll just use the regular viewer and the regular access. So that's kind of a non-starter. So I was going to give them credit for that.
We actually have somebody on the web called Web, not OnLive, on Web. And, he or she has just made the point that SL being on OnLive is potentially opening up SL to other gamers who are already on live. So at least it's great advertising. So I suppose
what's stopping them right now from trying it anyway?
Well, good point. It's a platform thing, I think. I mean, I know that OnLive have a machine which is like a game console that you can plug into your HGTV, and there's a community of gamers there who might see Second Life as an option and wouldn't normally have considered it. I don't know.
And then both of them will give up after a week. I remember on the Dragster podcast that the OnLive person was talking about, well, we need maybe a directory of places that are designed with OnLive in mind, similar to what Joe Yardley had suggested, which was a directory of places that would be designed with that headset, the Oculus Rift.
Oculus, yeah.
Oculus, this, just like a browser, web pages used to say, this is designed with Firefox in mind. This is designed with Chrome in mind. This is designed with Internet Explorer in mind. Oops, it crashed. But or it's insecure and your credit card's already stolen.
This is designed with crashing in mind. Yes.
But if you had sites that were specifically designed with OnLive, the welcome experience, was that customized for OnLive to deal with the viewer that's been altered, or is it just dumping you into the same random place to quit from SL from? Have they improved Welcome Island yet? I think Welcome Island really ought to be, if they're trying to get a bunch more people into SL, perhaps you ought to have a welcome mat that isn't the inside of a bunch of spikes are made out of landmines. Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually it's something I missed at the Q&A time, but so I don't know the answer. But I was going to ask if OnLive actually have their own island or even a welcome island in Second Life.
I didn't see that mentioned by any of these so-called beta testers and early reviewers, which, once again, why did you pick these people who don't think in terms of a new user? My job, in my real job, I am supposed to act as a customer advocate, and that's why you document stuff. You write things up from their perspective of, oh, this is a product that I supposedly need. Walk me through how to set it up, use it, and occasionally fix it and maintain it. And I can take that perspective. These people need to look at it from a technical writer, from an advocate, and see it when they review these things. Instead, they were reviewing it from a veteran's perspective, reviewing it from a dimwit's perspective, whatever. They didn't take the full access. But I'm not calling Inara a dimwit. Inara, I think, had the best, fairest, most reasonable review, and then now you walk down the line of cheerleaders with the bigger pom poms and the crazier routines. But I think what they need to do in future releases and tests, grab an absolute hardcore cynic, but not so cynical that they tell them, screw you like I do, but someone like Will Burns, approach them, pay a few bucks, and tell them, okay, why don't you walk through this if you're so smart and try to convince the unconvincible, and let him give some feedback, and an absolute cynic. And if you get him begrudgingly growling and saying, I can't find anything wrong with it, you've got it now. Run it through the test, run it through your most cynical people. If you can convince your enemy,
if you can convince the really hardcore opponents.
Instead, they wind up with the people that, once again, just like Viewer 2.0, if you remember that mess, where it didn't even have the build tool available in it, and all these people were like, it's great, it's wonderful, and then you had people like me saying, are you freaking nuts? This is missing, this is missing, this is missing. Why didn't you have someone test it? And then all the tests were, well, this would, we thought, but we didn't realize they were going to change, and then none of them actually jumped out and said that until they were prompted. It's like, come on. So you got to be honest about it. You got to be thorough, and you got to have the guts to go after your critics. I don't know. There was a guy 2,000 years ago that did that kind of thing. Faced off with his critics, flipped a few tables, had a good time, and then, well, he died for it. Well, at least in this world, you get respawned. But you got to really be thorough about this. And it's amazing that a Silicon Valley company doesn't go through those iterations, doesn't go through that testing. Their focus groups are as blind as a bat. and
Okay.
to really get some serious folks. I think I've monopolized the time enough.
Yeah, I'm just thinking. Yeah.
Yeah, excellent points. I have to say one of the things that I think is a plus about the piece of Ebbe's background, which includes Microsoft, is the fact that we know Microsoft has very sophisticated, or used to have very sophisticated usability studies that they were doing constantly with real users in labs and face tracking and all that stuff. So I'm hopeful that that there will be better usability testing on the part of Linden Lab as a result of Ebbe's
Something rather interesting has just come in here. Daniel Voyager in chat has just said that on the 6th of March, he created a poll saying, will you be using SLGo? And the results are nearly 85% said no. Only 15%, slightly over 15% have said yes. So that is kind of Daniel's blog. I imagine has quite a sort of broad spectrum range of readers. So
there's a lot of folks checking. I even watch it for the aggregation. For
Ah.
the Microsoft usability comment that Tara had, that's dead on. And how many of you out there are using Firestorm? How many of you are using it right now? Okay, in the lower right. Okay. Click on usually the far right button is quick preferences. Take a look at that. That's got your win lights, that's got your everything, that's got your draw distance, that's got everything, all the main controls, and you can customize it for quick access to that stuff.
Yeah.
That quick preferences was in Phoenix years ago. It was in Emerald years ago. That is the most brilliant, useful tool in all of SL navigation, all that. That's the most useful thing I've found. And you can change your bandwidth, you can add tools and everything.
And it's not in the main viewer.
It's not in the main viewer. Yeah.
I agree.
These are examples of the engineers that design the SL viewer are not going out, trying out the third-party ones to see why they're so popular. Look at the features people use, and then talking to these third-party developers, this is a great thing you developed. Can we incorporate, now that all the open licensing and all that stuff is out there, can we incorporate this in the main viewer? Just like the jiggly boobs, just like the fitted mesh or whatever you call it, just like all those other features that they brought in. Why haven't they brought in these usability tools? I think it shows an isolation from what the people actually need and actually want. And when you see all those posts that were trolling people for what is this new announcement going to be, you're going to see some of those mentions in there. That's why I've been making fun of them through Ebbe Needs To on Twitter. All these things that people bring up, I'm going to post up there. Like, they want this, they want that. These are the things people want.
Let me, if I may, I switch OnLive specific at the moment to Ebbe Linden, or Ebbe, sorry, Linden, the new CEO. It's early days yet. It's only a couple of weeks he's been there. He seems to be moving fast, but I think with a lot of this stuff, down the chain of the pyramid at the lab or whatever, maybe he doesn't. I get the feeling he's sort of shaking things up a bit as much as he can. So maybe he's very interested in customer support. So maybe indeed he will actually start thinking, well, why are other people going to these other viewers? Let's see if we can do as good a job. But he also was very positive on he was asked a lot of questions on things like the desertion of educators and the educator discounts and the lab's seeming uninvolvement with not just education, but a whole lot of things doing in Inworld. And, he was very positive on that. He says, I really want to get together with these people and address it. He wants the lab to be in contact, I guess, with big serious events in Second Life, so they can help promote them and stuff like that. So you've been a very silent felon, which is the most unusual thing for you. Are you there still?
I never get in the way of crap when it's moving.
Oh, not yeah.
Rolls downhill, doesn't it?
Oh, very good one there. Yes, I know. It's a very hard job to do that. Yeah. But I'm just thinking. Obviously, I want your thoughts, as such as you know them, on the OnLive viewer, because you haven't really said anything on that yet. But also, of course, on maybe your hopes for better cooperation from the lab in terms of things like educational events, which we'll get to in a bit too.
Well, in terms of the viewer, I mean, the viewer is constantly going to change, right? So, I mean, in terms of features and what have you, I mean, certainly kudos to Firestorm and all the folks that have been working on that particular product. And, and I use this as well. It's just simply because, as everybody said, it's just a far better experience than working with the Linden Lab viewer, unfortunately. But these things are going to come and go. I mean, we're going to have third-party viewers as we go along, and to be quite honest, I think there's been such a lag or a gap in terms of where this technology could have gone over the last 5 years compared to where we're currently at, that I really don't have a clear or as clear a vision as I was hoping to have at this state, in terms of where all this stuff actually might be going. And so, I mean, there's so many, but there's so many different directions you could have potentially taken this whole technology in. So, Crap was talking about a couple of things that they could have done, which would have been really helpful. But, when you're talking about trying to market this to businesses, right? I mean, one of the things that businesses were coming in here and they were basically saying, we need to have control over our intellectual property, and that includes avatars if we decide to give an avatar to our employees. The avatar doesn't belong to the employee, it belongs to the company. So if that employee quits, I'm sorry, we get the avatar and the inventory and everything else that they've been working on back. And, the lab sort of made it quite clear that they weren't willing to put those particular types of things in place, which is one of the things that businesses needed. Mm-hmm. They, the Nebraska product, which was supposed to be their big, entry into big business, completely used a different selling model, anything that large corporations and governments were used to. It was just, they were just completely off the mark on some of these things. And, if they had bothered to, and I'm trying to figure out where they get some of their sales ideas. I mean, this idea that somebody's going to spend $2.50 an hour to sit down to be able to use Second Life on a tablet. I mean, it's sort of like, wow, we can get Second Life on a tablet, but then it's like, the other shoe dropped, right? And it's sort of like, what, really? I'm paying $72 a year as a premium member for Second Life right now, right? And considering that people spend, the diehards are spending 20, 40, 60 hours a week in here, times $2.50 times 52 weeks. I mean, that's, again, they're pricing themselves out of the market again, right? And it's one of these things where you look at this and sort of like, I can't quite figure out what it is, but for some reason they come up with these really good ideas, and then they have to follow it by something really stupid, and then they come out with a really good idea, and then they follow it up with something stupid, and then they ignore the things which are really going to be their big selling points. I mean, when I'm glad to hear Ebbe talking about bringing back customer support and customer service, because that was a huge selling point to the product. When you could, and we were talking about this the last time I was on, but I mean, when you could go around and you could claim that you had a Linden that you could call and contact at any given point in time, I mean, people felt connected to what was going on, and then all of a sudden well, yeah, exactly. Like Pathfinder and Claudia and other people, and
yeah,
that was that was phenomenal because I mean, here it is. You got an opportunity to feel like you were part of what was going on. You were part of the development of the platform. You were part of something that was going to be new and innovative. And then they fired them all, or they carefully suggested that maybe their career paths might be better helped by working for something other than Linden Lab, right? And of course, some of them have gone on to do very great things, and others we haven't heard from since. But it'll be interesting to see if they do bring some of that stuff back, because I mean, they had at the end of 2008, before they really started to make some what I continue to call some bed calls. They had essentially one of the largest marketing forces in the world. I mean, they had a subscriber base that was willing to go out there and preach.
Absolutely passionate.
They completely. And as soon as they gutted the customer service, they also gutted the customer service. They gutted the educational discount. They gutted the teen grid. They gutted the terms of service. And every single one of these things basically chopped off that marketing team that was out there, that was willing to go out and tell everybody about this wonderful new product called Second Life. And by the way, get your ass in here.
It wasn't just them off, but antagonistic. If you remember, a lot of the bloggers pissed off when the copyright, registered trademark, and all that crap came up, and then the branding issue with if you have Second Life in your name, whatever. But of course, it didn't apply to Proc, yet who is an FIC, blah 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 blah. But they attacked their passionate customer base instead of working with them on this. That's why I developed Second Life all that time ago, to make fun of the fact that, well, it doesn't have Second or Life in the name, and was close to it on Twitter, and it was a group effort starting off making fun of them and their announcements. But now I've set him aside. The bag's been recycled. It's the Rebe for a bit, but that was a joke that played out. But the SL, this brings up SL official tweet, which came up, which turned out apparently to be a scam and a fake. But that one got identified, outed, and taken care of mostly by the users, by passionate users that figured it out.
You've reminded me that I actually created an identity that had a short life, really, called SL. But it was a name. It was ESELLE. And so they couldn't do anything. But, at the moment you said it, it was at SL. So I always thought, it's the rascal in all of us, we're reacting.
Well, it's interesting because I mean, I think the one big thing, I mean, if I'm not in any way going to suggest that any one particular CEO is going to solve all the ills of past mistakes over the last 5-6 years. But, if Ebbe can do one thing and do one thing well, I would, highly suggest that it's, re-enable that passion in terms of what people had in here and make them feel like that. But as a leader, he does need to help enable. He needs to put in the enabling, supporting infrastructure and the services and the symbolism in terms of saying, essentially, I hate to sound like a sap about this, but it's sort of like going out there and basically saying, look, we care. We really do.
What he needs to do is walk into the lab and go around every employee, kick them in the arse and say, listen to the customers.
Well, and that's where I brought up that backlog idea, but also you don't mistake passion for expertise.
Oh, yeah.
So he grabbed up the passionate cheerleaders and also the SL media types for the meet and greet. I'm sure there are others that will take place at some point for people who left and haven't come back. Why did you leave? What will change it? For artists, musicians or whatever, for scripters, for developers. Why are you here? For educators, my God, if there was ever a case for education, hey, we would love to have an intern or two in our development group and try to come up with a web-based viewer that's going to be for credit.
I must admit,
That no-brainer. Why haven't they done that for 6 years?
I must admit, when we did have the meet and greet, I'm feeling like a thick myself now. I don't know why, but that was actually raised, and of course this meet took place before the announcement about OnLive, and we really say we need a lightweight viewer. As well, you're going to go on your desktop if you want to build and have a studio most of the time. You need something that's graphically rich but lightweight.
But the ultimate lightweight is not having to use the viewer at all, which would be through the website. If there were API calls, application programming interface, if there were API calls that allowed you to hook into the servers, you authenticate, you have a secure token, and then you're able to see the status of your sims, reboot them, those kind of things. If you could just do them from the website, if you include some of those API calls into the interface. Oh, instead it's just buying land, but I want to be able to see what's up and down. And if I need to, I can quickly do some maintenance here or check the stats, how it's running. Instead, well, here's your streaming viewer that you can do this from, although we've taken away advanced in development. I want to be able to see where the scripts are and where the lag is. I want to be able to pull down reports. I want to be able to help people. And if I'm going to act, I'm effectively acting as a reseller with Five Islands, even though it's just a community and this and that. The role is reseller in the biz.
Yeah.
So I need to have those tools available and available easily and be able to delegate them as needed. The software that I work for, it is for reselling of a resource. It is for management of things, and it does it well. And it's done with a lot of APIs. Open up the API structure and look at it. And why is it that LSL, which you're supposed to program in, there are not a lot of things that you can do with voice on there? Why can't you turn voice on and off in a sim with LSL? I think that hasn't been resolved yet. But those kind of things, why haven't they gone up and down and seen what do people need? Let's get that to them.
One of the things that I brought this up at the meet, and I mentioned it on the show quite a lot, but one of the things I still, after all this time, miss most about Second Life is the slim viewer, not viewer, the slim sort of, it was like Skype. You could phone and instant message people in world, even when you weren't logged in to the full client. It was like a communication. It's like a Skype for Second Life. And then, if you did need to get in world, you could launch yourself in world. But, you were able to do all your communications and keep in touch with people without being in the environment. And of course, the people using it were all people who were in the environment anyway. So it wasn't like bypassing the need for the virtual environment. It was just, a wonderful tool to keep one involved, in the hours when one necessarily couldn't be. And, I mentioned that too. I really have a bee in the bonnet about that.
Mitch, your site is still up. Do a search for his post when they killed that. Mitch was big into that.
Yeah, I remember.
When they killed it, it was like his reaction was just beautiful. Look that up. And there are just so many things that could be useful.
I think that... I think Mitch was one of the real people I used it with too. So it's like we said earlier. They bring something along, it's great, and then they just get rid of it, and it's suddenly steps backward. Okay, let's. I want to move into a few other things here, and I know Maria's got a bit to talk about. I'll dust into Jet now because Daniel in chat has reminded me. Petlove here, and I, and a whole group of us, RacerX, MOE, and Safra, who was our old mixer, actually broadcast the opening of the Relay for Live season last night. And I think you can find replays of that on AVTV. And we'll probably get them onto the RFL channel later. But Daniel is just reminding me to tell everybody the Relay for Live is Second Life. 10 sessions started this weekend. That's indeed it did. What we filmed was basically the grand opening where they were looking back and looking forward and making announcements about the teams and all the wonderful stuff they'd done, etc. And of course, in a few months' time, in July, it will be the big major rally weekend where it's the one we call a telethon. In fact, I keep getting criticized for calling it the telethon weekend rather than Relay for Life weekend. But the kickoff sims are all up in World at the moment. So there's an RFL gateway sim, I believe, and then I think it's 4 sims that are actually up there. So if you just look for RFL space kickoff on the Second Life map, you'll see all the sims that are already online, and you can go and check them out. So quick plug there. Okay, well, we've also got Virtual World's Best Practices coming up, and also I was just chatting briefly to Maria when I was asking her to come on today, and you've got some other news, including an event you're doing in Boston, I believe, Maria. If I haven't got the location. Oh, you're still muted. I think. Or you're still there?
She went and got cough medicine, according to the internal chat.
Oh, right. Okay. Yes, we've...
And whatever you said just then, a chunk of it, I think, may not have made it to the channel, because I didn't hear it.
Oh, brilliant. Okay. We've got sound issues again, I guess.
Yeah, Skype is...
Blah, blah, blah. Relay for Life, kickoff 4 sims. Back to you, Mel.
Right.
And it appears that Maria is back.
I am back.
Oh, okay. That was just bad timing. I wasn't too busy talking and not looking at the back chat, basically. You were telling me earlier about various news. Actually, I think you're doing
lots of news happening.
Yeah, a lot of stuff. Let's have the complete update from you now.
All right. So let's start with the Bitcoin stuff, and then move inwards towards OpenSim proper. So you mentioned that the founder of the Meta exchange in Singapore died. Looks like she committed suicide. They're still investigating it. It's a Bitcoin exchange. It also does SL traffic as well. Now this is just a fraction of the stuff that's been hitting Bitcoin. Another exchange, the Mt. Gox exchange, lost $500 million and declared bankruptcy. $500 million worth of Bitcoin. Something called Flexcoin, which was built as a super secure bank that nobody can get to your Bitcoins. They lost. They lost $500,000 or 600,000 Bitcoins, and they're out of business now. So this stuff is happening right and left, but at the same time, Overstock, and I don't know if I was here after I talked to their CEO, they start accepting Bitcoin, and they made $1 million in Bitcoin sales over the first 2 months. Now, this is a drop in a bucket for Overstock, but they're saying this is mostly new customers. And so Bitcoin people are willing to spend their Bitcoins. So that's interesting. The volatility has been going nuts. It went from less than $50 per Bitcoin a year ago to around $1,200 per Bitcoin, down to $600 per Bitcoin. So everybody who says that they go into Bitcoin because real currencies are too volatile, because they go up a couple of pennies or down a couple of pennies over the course of a year. I mean, this is just crazy.
Yeah, Bitcoin's turned it on its head. Do you think, Tommy, again, I'm no financial expert here, but do you think this Bitcoin thing is being driven by investment types rather than consumer types? I know people are collecting Bitcoins to spend on things,
my theory is that Bitcoin rewards certain types of activity. It rewards mining. It rewards trading. Both mining and trading benefit from volatility. Trading in particular. Obviously, it hurts end users, but because Bitcoin is totally unregulated, there is absolutely no legal consequences for launching a denial of service attack at the exchange, driving down the price of Bitcoins, buying a bunch up, letting the price go back up, selling them, putting out fake news reports, putting out anything you want to do to manipulate the prices, you can do legally. It's not officially considered a currency.
Right.
So anybody can put up a blog and put out bad news or good news. I mean, obviously, there's plenty of real news too. And in the pump and dump schemes are popular. Plus, if you're a hacker with a big array of zombie machines at your disposal, you can put those to making Bitcoins, and you don't have to pay anything for electricity or for computers. So the people who are so there's a great deal of benefit to bad players. So this is the bad side of Bitcoin. The good side of Bitcoin, and I'm hearing this from some financial experts, is that the underlying ideas of Bitcoin, not so much as a way to save, store money, but as a way to transmit money, is very interesting. And some of the underlying technologies may one day evolve into like a cheaper version of PayPal, where you can transmit money securely, effectively. Now, of course, once the regulations come in, once the anti-money laundering laws come in and everything else, the price of transactions is going to go up anyway. It's going to become more centralized. So all the stuff that makes Bitcoin so cool is you can't have it both be super anonymous and totally free and be safe, so you're not losing all your money every time you put it in exchange or every time you send it to somebody. So if there's the minute real amounts of money get involved, people want to be protected. People want to have laws to catch the crooks with. So that's happening on the Bitcoin side. Now, of course,
it seems that just a couple of months ago, or last year anyway, we were talking about Bitcoin, and we were both of the view that it wasn't actually that viable. I think probably that has changed a bit now, but sort of it hasn't gone away. It just seems to be so much for a buzz. But
it's gotten both better and worse simultaneously.
Right.
Better because of the overstock deal. Because the CEO is a big believer, and that's why he jumped on it. Right. So it's better because of that, better because of Coinbase and BitPay, which allow you to accept Bitcoin, but automatically transfer to dollars, so you have zero risk and exposure.
Right.
So that's the better side. And of course, the worst side is the Silk Roads, the bankruptcies of the exchanges, the volatility, and all the duplicate Bitcoins, the altcoins that are coming out, the Kanye West coins and the doggy coins, and our ARS Technica, I don't even know how to pronounce their name of the website, has come up with an arse coin.
Oh God! I hope Linden Labs don't convert Linda's into Linden coin or something.
Yeah. Now Linden Labs should be distributing their coins to the metaverse and becoming the PayPal of the 3D web. But I've ranted about that before.
Yeah.
That's a long discussion.
Yeah. So long as they're a walled garden, that's not going to happen. So yeah.
So they could put the API, but anyway. So back on the virtual currency and OpenSim side, we had the closest thing we have to a multi-grid currency is the OMC, which is the Open Metaverse Currency. It's used more than tripled in 2013, but as some of my readers were pointing out, mostly just due to a couple of grids, and they're in the process of switching over to a new currency that's backed by Podex, which is one of the multi-currency exchanges, and ZetaMex, which is a up-and-coming new OpenSim hosting company that's been getting a lot of attention lately. Has a lot of happy customers, and they've been donating stuff right and left. And so they want to do an alternative to the OMC. So this would be a currency that has, like the OMC, it works on multiple grids, but unlike the OMC, you can actually get tech support for it. So, which apparently has been a problem with the OMC from Virvox, because it's such a tiny drop in the bucket for Virvox's business, which is mostly selling lindens to Europeans.
One of your other blogs during the week, of course, covered the Kitely and the hypergrid market business.
Yep.
And of course, this sort of would tie in with that, because presumably, if you're going to have a marketplace that's hypergrid enabled, it's going to have to use some kind of currency, isn't it?
It uses PayPal dollars.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, it uses both PayPal dollars and it uses Kitely credits. And merchants can decide which or both they want to accept. And if they accept PayPal dollars, they can withdraw it into real money. If they accept Kitely credits, they can only spend them on Kitely. And the reason this was set up is so that Kitely credits are not a virtual currency and they don't have to register as a financial institution in the United States or Israel or anywhere else. The company has growth plans. And if you have plans for growth, you really want to be on a solid legal footing to start with. You don't want to be operating in a gray area where overnight you could be out of business.
Yeah.
Red Ring as a money transmitter is an extremely, extremely expensive process, and only really big companies with big legal staffs can afford to do that. So by doing this, Kitely is on the one hand saying, we're committed to the long term, and we're going to do this legally. So they've started testing this past week hypergrid delivery of products from the Kitely market. Now, what the Kitely market is, it's an online marketplace like the SL marketplace. It's currently the second biggest marketplace in OpenSim. Inworld has their InBiz marketplace. And what makes the Kitely marketplace different, other than the fact that they spent a ton of time on usability, and Kitely has a really good reputation for usability, and they've really put that into the marketplace. The other thing that they do is that they have 4 permission settings instead of 3 for all their content. In addition to copy, modify, and transfer, they also have an export permission.
Great.
So if you're a creator and you have a product on the marketplace, you can sell multiple variations of the product under multiple licenses or different colors or with different permissions at different prices. And so you charge extra for the export permission version of the item. And right now, as of a couple of days ago, 1,680 listings have export permissions, which is around half of all the listings on the marketplace, which is a really amazing thing, given that everyone's been saying, oh no, creators don't want to sell in a hypergrid. Well, apparently
they do.
They do want to sell in a hypergrid if they know that there's money in there, and that if they know that they can charge a little bit extra for this. And I think that's a great attitude. You're not going to prevent theft by staying away from these markets, but what you can do is you can get honest people to pay you money. And there's a lot of honest people out there who want to pay money for stuff and right now have no place to go. In particular, all the enterprise users of OpenSim, the schools, the businesses, the nonprofits, they need legal sources of content. They have budgets to spend on content. And I'm getting emails from them all the time. Where do we get stuff? Where do we get stuff? And the only thing I can tell them is you either hire one of these custom development shops and spend a lot of money to create content from scratch, or you go to the Linda Kelly site and you download her content. And between these two extremes, there's nothing in the middle. Either you go with the freebies or you have custom work, but there's no like mid-range content. So this is going to happen now. And I think that the biggest impact is going to be felt on the second tier closed commercial grids. Because unless you're in Worlds, which has a big population and a lot of people on it, right now all these closed commercial grids, their argument to the users is that give up your rights, give up the ability to make backups, give up the ability to get hypergrid travel. In return, you get better content than you can in open grids, because you can't get commercial content in open grids for the most part. You only get it on closed grids. So there's a whole bunch of grids: Third Rock Grid, Virtual Highway, AV Worlds, that operate, that are small populations, hundreds of active users, and they have their own little commercial outposts there, but their value proposition is going to disappear. Not in Worlds, probably not so much. They've got almost 8,000 active users, or is it 7,800 or so last count? So they have the biggest concentrated population base in OpenSim. Their merchants aren't going to leave. Their customers aren't going to leave. But everyone else on the public hypergrid enabled grids, we already have around 8,000 active users, so more people than in Worlds. This does not count the private school, company, and nonprofit grids. So just on the public open grids like OS Grid and Metropolis and Craft, Franco Grid, German Grid, Littlefield, you have combined more users than you have in Worlds. So if I was a Second Life merchant and I was looking to expand to new customers, to new populations, I would go to Inworlds and I would go to the Kitely market right now. And that way I would hit the biggest commercial grid in OpenSim, and I would hit the biggest hypergrid market in OpenSim, and I would ignore all the other small commercial grids out there, because it's too much of a pain to set up a store on multiple grids and maintain and do customer support and transfer all your content and support the content. It's a nightmare. So I mean, that's what I would do, and it's gonna cause some upheaval in the business models, I think.
I think it makes perfect sense, because I mean, I'll go log into my own grid, which is still OS Grid now, and I'll hunt around for free stuff or stuff I can get, whatever, toss up my avatar or whatever, new wig now and again. But quite frankly, I'm there to do things, and I'm going to go after stuff that's available, like in Second Life, when I find it. But availability of all that stuff is not going to be my principal reason for choosing where I base myself. I'll make do with what I can get. So, if being based there, I can be offered more and more and stuff like that, and can buy them. That's great. That is absolutely great. I'm not going to go and sign up for Inworlds just to play in Inworlds and get a costume there that I can't take anywhere else. So
right.
I think you're right. I mean, the whole thing about the hypergrid, and in many ways OpenSim, is the aggregated numbers. You put all the land together and it's bigger than Second Life. You put all the users together and it's nowhere near as big as Second Life yet. But this will all change as stuff becomes available, and there are still sufficient quantities of people there for commercial marketplaces to move in.
Right.
It would indeed. Well, I would be happy if I just had export permissions on this avatar and his costume. That would do it for me. But no such portable avatar, but no such that. Yeah.
All right. So speaking of content, the U.S. Army has OpenSim grids.
Moses
and Moses, and what they've done is they've packaged it up and they've been distributing it to a whole bunch of government agencies. So apparently there's a whole bunch of government institutions running OpenSim quietly behind their firewalls. But the other thing they do, and then anybody can get it too. It's not just for the U.S. government. Anybody can get the nice packaged up Moses package. What they've also done is they've been setting up military testing simulations, and they've been donating the complete region files for all that under Creative Commons licenses, which is very cool. So they have like this Middle East terrain with the villages for the military exercises. You can now have it if you want it.
Yeah, I was looking at those. They're great.
They also have taken the management console. So right now, managing an OpenSim grid, creating users, moving regions around, restarting things can be a little difficult. You have to do it one region at a time. You have to do it through a console. They have created the Moses grid management system based on some half-finished open source project called the Simian Grid. And they've also released that. So it's available for free. And so if you're going to be starting up a grid from scratch, a large grid, like for a large institution or a large commercial grid, you're now going to be more than halfway there with this, or 90% of the way there, depending on how much stuff you want with this grid management tool. Previously, if you wanted to start a grid, either you wrote your own grid management tool, or you went with a vendor like ZetaMex or Dreamland that had a grid management tool for you to use. So, which is why a lot of the smaller commercial grids have just been going to ZetaMex and Dreamland and saying, just set it up for us, set up the websites for us, set up all this other stuff. We're just going to do the events and the community building and the marketing, and you run the technology, and we'll do the fun stuff.
So basically, if you download the thing that Moses are offering, and you just set up your OpenSim on a stick or locally as a hypergrid enabler as normal, basically all your management tools are now available to you.
You wouldn't
without a host.
You probably wouldn't use it for Sim on a stick. If you're doing Sim on a stick, you have the Ziva Wi-Fi tool. And the Ziva Wi-Fi lets you create a user at a time. It lets you do some basic management, and you have the console. And because Sim on a stick is usually, you're not going to have, more than 16 regions on it on a home computer? No, we're talking about grids with hundreds of regions or thousands of regions where the Wi-Fi just, can't deal with it. Where you have, like, say you're doing a military exercise or class exercise where you have to bring in several hundred new avatars all at once and create default avatars for them. So that kind of thing, mass updates, bulk changes. You have to upload a lot of OR files all at once. You have to rejig an entire grid really quickly. So that kind of stuff, which for a big enterprise or a big commercial grid, this is what it's meant for.
In the web chat room, OnWeb has just put a link in. I presume this is the same link we're talking about, http://brokentablet.army.mil/index.html.
Yep, that's it.
If you were listening carefully there, well, I'll repeat it quickly, but this is where you can get it if you want it. It's brokentablet.army.mil/index.html. There we go.
Right.
Sorry about that.
And you can leave the index.html off and it'll get you to the same place.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Yep. So this also means that if you want to get into the OpenSim hosting business, you could use this as to get a big head start on becoming a competitor to Dreamland and ZetaMex. So this is also a good thing. So for example, for web hosting, there's a lot of open source Z panels or whatever they're called, where you just download it, you install it, and then you just restyle hosting based on that. So this is kind of that kind of tool where you can have a management system that you just download, you set up, and then you can start your hosting business without having to spend a couple of years first programming it.
That sounds like a big saving, yes. And that's assuming you know how to program it, yeah.
Exactly. And then the other thing which you mentioned early on is that we now have variable regions in OpenSim.
Yeah.
And a year or two or so ago, a couple of years ago, there's a spin-off of OpenSim called Aurora Sim. And they had these variable regions, region of any size, and they can have infinite regions too, is what they had. And some of that technology is now starting to make its way over into mainline OpenSim. Aurora Sim itself never really became a viable platform. It was basically one guy, and then it was two guys, and it was one guy again. So it didn't really have. It had a few cool features, but it didn't have stability. It didn't have anything else to really make it work. So some of their stuff is coming back to OpenSim, and one of them is variable regions, which means that instead of having a region that's just one square, like you have in Second Life or in most open sim places, you can now have a region that's a 2x2 square or a 3x3 square or a 4x4 square, all the way up to 32x32 regions.
Ooh.
And 32x32 regions is something that's
Big.
8 miles on the side. No, 8 kilometers or 5 miles on the side. So 832 meters. And it means that it has like 16,000 acres of land in it.
So a
And it's
nice
the
big estate to play with.
and or it's the equivalent of 132 or 100 over 1,000 regions total in this one square. So now, in order to have that, though, you have to have a server big enough to handle this.
Yeah.
And so probably most of those regions are going to be empty land or water, but still no region crossings, none of that stuff. Now, you might say, but didn't we already have that with mega regions? And the answer is yes, but mega regions were a kludge designed to work with the Second Life viewer, and a whole bunch of stuff didn't work, like teleports didn't work right, that kind of stuff. Variable regions are built right into the server, and they're based on the fact that the latest viewers have been updated to work with OpenSim, because Second Life did that whole my way or the highway thing with the Havoc licensing, forcing viewer developers to say, okay, we're going to stick with Second Life, or we're going to stick with OpenSim, or we're going to support both to make that decision. And so some viewer developers said no to Havoc and, are supporting everybody. Firestorm branched its viewers. So there's now a Second Life viewer and an OpenSim viewer. And now we can have all the cool features that we couldn't have in OpenSim before because we had to be using the Second Life viewer. Now we have our own viewer, and variable regions are the first big example. That and the export permissions. I guess the export permissions are the first big example. So the variable regions are the second big example of features that are only available in OpenSim. And it fixes the teleport problem. It's a lot more stable. It might have still some bugs because it's an experimental feature, but those bugs can be fixed because they're now fully under OpenSim's control. They're not.
This sounds like it could be very attractive for institutions and things who want a large amount of space that that I don't know, all-inclusive space that Second Life can't provide. It could be a real boost for OpenSim, I would think.
It's a boost for anybody who doesn't want border crossings. I mean, that's the number one thing it gets rid of, is border crossings. So if you have a large conference call, that conference hall that spans 4 regions, or if you have a college campus that goes across multiple regions, or a store that goes across multiple regions,
or the Relay for Life launch and the track.
Racetracks, sailing areas, any kind of vehicle-based area, role-playing area, those are really, really hot things to do that are currently being done with mega regions that can now be done with these variable regions easier, better, and more effectively and more efficiently. So it's going to be, I think it's going to be really great for anybody with vehicles or anybody with large campuses who doesn't want border crossings. Now, it doesn't mean you get more land to play with, because you still need to have a computer that supports the land and the prims. It's not like free land. So whereas before you might have 4 regions, now it's one big region, but you still need the same amount of computing power and resources. So it's not a free lunch that way, but it does get rid of the border crossings. And that, now I don't know about what it's like in Second Life with border crossings.
Oh, I do. No comment.
But in OpenSim, you occasionally get a rubber banding effect, or you lose your seat on your vehicle or something like that. And those are not attractive things to have happen.
Yeah, but sometimes the hair gets left behind and things like that.
So this does away with it, because as far as the simulator is concerned, it's just one big region. And so that's the roundup of the big news that's been happening in on the Open Sim side lately.
Okay, now, but you've missed out one thing, I think, though.
What I miss?
You are doing an event, aren't you? Boston or somewhere you mentioned?
Oh, I'm giving a speech. Yes, I'm giving a speech to the Society of Professional Journalists. It's a real life speech. It's their conference in Boston, and I will be talking about future shock. And I don't know if any of you guys have been following this, but the media has just been disrupted in humongous ways by this whole internet thing. And
yes, it's a nuisance. It's a real nuisance. It's a real nuisance. Real nuisance, that internet thing. Look at all these avatars doing new things. They're competing with us.
So what happened was a lot of things that used to be considered journalism functions are now being done by technology companies, Wikipedia, Google News, all the aggregators out there, Facebook, everything else that's being done that the news media has totally missed out on. It's totally transformed the role of the profession. It's forced the closure of hundreds, if not thousands, of publications. The online advertising market still isn't there compared to the print market. We had Craigslist and other sites like that. This pulled apart the business value of a newspaper, where somebody else is making profits from classified, somebody else is making profits from the half wanted, somebody else is making profits from the real estate listings, and so
is this conference print journalism based, or is it about journalism across the?
It's heavy on the print, but it's wire services and online and TV too. Right. But my point is that if you thought that was bad, wait till you hear about what's coming down the line.
1, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Yes. So imagine this future, step forward 5 years or so, when we've got the Oculus Rift and similar devices at plummeting prices. I mean, it's starting out at $300. It's going to just keep going down. It's going to virtual reality is super attractive. All the high earning games are in immersive 3D, the Grand Theft Autos, everybody else. That's what people pay money for. We're going to have immersive 3D. We're going to have artificial intelligence. We're going to have voice control. We're going to have natural gesture interfaces. So it'd be easier for people to get into this, easier for people to interact, it'd be engaging. And so you combine all these things together, and you're going to have a situation where you're not just conveying information, you're conveying experiences. You can convey massively personalized experiences. So instead of listening to a news anchor telling you something on a screen, that news anchor could take you with him on a virtual tour of whatever's happening in the news, totally personalized to your personal needs, based on that anchor's uploaded personality. I mean, or a version of that personality based on AI, based on what that anchor has said in the past whatsoever.
Yeah, your data would merge with the AI, and you get a unique experience. Yeah.
The stuff that Google is doing now, basically replacing editors by using these algorithms to, in fact, write news stories from scratch based on all this information. You can now start thinking about what's going to happen when you have an NPC that's increasingly photorealistic, that has the entire history of that journalist's voice and accents and stories that they've read in the past, with access to all of Google News, with access to your personal history of what kind of news you're interested in. And you combine that together. Now, this applies to every industry, of course: sales, marketing, research, anything that people are now doing face-to-face that doesn't require physical contact. So like a masseuse probably is not going to lose her job to an avatar. The lawnmower guy isn't going to lose his job to an avatar. But things that happen person to person that do not require physical contact, therapy, education, news delivery, research jobs of all kinds, they're going to be massively, yeah, a lot of that stuff is going to become massively transformed.
I wonder how much even the interpersonal stuff will be changed with, robots and things like that.
Well, I'm wondering when the
ho-
NPCs are going to get together and figure out they don't need us.
yeah, well, haven't they already done that?
Pretty much. If you look at the labor market and the people leaving it, yes. But I'm going to disagree with Maria that this is going to apply to media. If anything, media's trend has been to add in comment sections where people troll each other, throw up their opinions, same old arguments. That's their idea of interactivity and community, which achieves nothing, does not inform the public anymore, and they don't provide external resources because they are terrified that people will come to the realization that those external resources, run by experts in some cases, those are better than the traditional media.
Good
and that's why
point.
they're
Good
collapsing.
point.
Newsweek was worth $1, and whoever paid $1 for Newsweek overpaid when that person hounded and chased down who turned out not to be the founder of Bitcoin. Time magazine was worth $1. The Washington Post was worth $1. You are noticing that all of these outlets, these traditional media, at some point, the New York Times, the Nazi complicit New York Times with Sulzberger is worth $1. You are noticing that you can buy these for $1. I've got $1 in my pocket. I'm just waiting until the Wall Street Journal is worth $1. But all of these outlets are missing it.
Community. It's a cheap way to to make the public feel that they're being engaged. Excellent point there. So if I was a media organization looking for a cheap way to make my readers feel engaged, I would set up a virtual community. Absolutely. Excellent.
Well, I think it's all about feeling. The real agency is coming up through Amazon, where you see they're recommending things for you to buy based on your previous purchases, books and preferences. iTunes,
Well, that's only
this
because
Dr. Dre thing, recommendations with
all
Pandora.
the news organizations are way behind on that. Yeah.
I kind of wonder. I mean, I find it's. I mean, it's obviously convenient, but I see this already happening with TV media because they, instead of focusing on things like virtual worlds and alternative ways of doing television, they're happy with this second screen idea. Oh, we'll hijack everybody's pad and let them talk to each other.
And the ribbon on the bottom of the screen, giving
they are
information
quite a bit
really
behind the technology curve. They're still trying to adapt to last generation's technology. Yeah. Whereas, which means that the new generation's technology is going to be exploited by somebody else. Yeah. And that's the point really that I'm making is if you're fighting a rear guard action, you can't be looking ahead. And you have to be able to stop and say, okay, instead of fighting something that happened 5 years ago, let's look ahead 5 years and start planning ahead for the future. And right now, I don't think any media company is doing that.
It's actually rather interesting. Just a short anecdote here. Here in England, but I think we're the only country in the world that has to pay the government or rather the BBC a license fee, £3 a week, just to any television, not the BBC specifically. And finally, they've got a new boss man, chairman of the board or whatever, who's is actually been muted for the first time by the BBC themselves, that they might be better off if they didn't have this license fee and they have subscriptions instead. And it's a welcome change, even though the change itself is probably 30 years behind the times. Right. But you do eventually it gets to everybody, they turn around and suddenly they realize that their old model is they've adapted it and adapted it and adapted it, but it's just not working, and they've got to go totally new.
Now, the interesting thing is that this every new innovation, technological innovation, creates a whole bunch of jobs that we did not foresee. when we're looking at it. All we can think of looking forward is all the jobs that disappeared because of it. We're never able to foresee the jobs that are going to appear. And I think that's the more interesting question. What are the new categories of careers that are going to spring up that we can now prepare ourselves for, because they're gonna be there, and that they're gonna just be growing rapidly. Like for example, right now, you've got all these web development shops. You've got that you wouldn't have considered existing if you went back 20 years. Like, why would this job even be existing? Or the online security folks. I've been doing some interviews for Chief Security Officer magazine. There's 0% unemployment in this profession because they can't get enough people who can do security, who can do information security, and
Well,
aren't getting enough people.
I can tell you one job that won't exist, and that's anything to do with journalistic ethics or morals or values, right? I mean, and this is, I mean, a lot of stuff that you're talking about is from a technology perspective. This is really cool because, it's sort of like, wow, there's the future and it's just within our grasp, and look at what we can do with it. And then you've got, especially, inside the US, where you have US politics are taking advantage of the fact that, with their negative ad campaigns against each other and the slander campaigns. And it's sort of like, no, we're allowed to publish inside the popular media any kinds of untruths that we want to publish. Right. And it's up to the individual constituent to sort out what is truth and what is not. And for all the faults of big media, right, like coming into the 1970s and 1980s, for all their faults, at least they had a code of conduct and a journalistic ethic and responsibility that, while it may have slipped a couple of times or more than a couple of times in some cases, right? But I mean, at least they had that to rely on. And now all of a sudden what we're doing is we're going into this world where not only do we no longer have big media available, now we've got all these multiple independent sources, and there's no integrity or journalistic oversight to what it is that they're potentially publishing.
I have to disagree with you there. I think there's a pendulum. It swings one way, it swings the other way. There's a lot of disintermediation happening. Newspapers are laying off these positions because they can't afford them anymore. But you also have third-party sites springing up, third-party fact-checking sites. Nonprofits are funding this. A lot of universities have programs in place. So those jobs are still there. They've moved to different locations. Maybe the salaries have gone down because you're not going to make as much in a nonprofit as for profit. But no, it is out there.
The fact-checking sites, like Political Truth and others, they're either right-wing or left-wing sponsored. So they're not fact-checking from an impartial direction, but they're fact-checking to go after and get the other side. I've got two quotes from Hunter S. Thompson here. This is the patron saint of pretty much everything. Yeah. As far as I'm concerned, it's a damn shame that a field as potentially dynamic and vital as journalism should be overrun with dullards, bums, and hacks, hag-ridden with myopia, apathy, and complacence, and generally stuck in a bog of stagnant mediocrity. That's the first quote.
Right.
And then you go with the second quote here.
And that was from the golden age of journalism.
And those from the so-called golden age. Here's the second one. Let me grab this up. With the possible exception of things like box scores, race results, and stock market tabulations, there is no such thing as objective journalism. The phrase itself is a pompous contradiction in terms. You go back through Hunter S. Thompson and all of the quotes and all the things he said and Gonzo and everything. Journalism is inherently dishonest. It's the manipulation that you engage in to put it on the page, put it on the stream, put it on the air. It is inherently corrupt. And when you finally get to experts just sharing what their expertise is. They have been empowered. You have the Neil deGrasse Tysons and the others, the engineers, the people who are on the ground watching the Soviet troops. Oops, sorry, not Soviet, Russian. Walking into Crimea and showing you the video of that, showing you the raw material, not edited, not marketed, just showing you what it is instead of, we got a big announcement coming, just say what it is.
I think
These
it's
kind of
but
things.
yet there's so much of this. Sorry, I mean there's so much of this though that gets staged, because I mean you look at how Russians and Chinese corporations have come out and they've manipulated the different search engines by basically saying, oh well, this one talk, that one talk to this one to that one in terms of sharing links, and then they put out their own fact checking service that checks those things, and then they have another service that checks the
the rubber stamping service.
Yeah, and it's sort of like, well, okay, at what point can we actually believe anything we're being told? Because even the organizations that are supposed to be there to protect our interests aren't.
I think something that Crab said. I notice this when I'm reading my news a lot, and I'm not just talking about MetaMurse feeds. I'm talking about my other kind of stuff where I use read sources, and I have a thing that some search engines seem to appreciate the sites I read, so they'll get I'm basically, by the number of clicks I do, I'm defining my trusted sources, as it were, for what I'm interested in. Or maybe it's a political attitude to the source or something like that, and they pick up on it, and therefore they are actually in a subtle way sort of giving me what I want. But I do see so many feeds, particularly from the left and from the right of politics, for example, that look like one thing and they're actually a totally different thing, because the journalistic side of it is actually, it's propaganda at the end of the day.
Okay.
And
All right.
I make an actual distinction. Sorry, this is the point I was getting at. I actually sort of make a distinction, I think, between a reporter and a journalist. To me, a journalist is somebody who interprets and puts a slant on something, and it may have another agenda entirely, or it may just be a subtle sort of personality slant. Whereas the reporter is the person who comes on camera here or writes and just delivers the news without judgment. When I aggregate a Twitter stream, for example, I'm picking up on any news that there is there, what the opinions are when people follow it, are almost irrelevant, because I'm picking up simply these. And I'm saying this is the news, and you're providing the links to the different slants on the news, and I think there is a distinction there, where the strict reporter, his job is to say, look, this is breaking news, and the journalist who actually does put the slant on it anyway. But there's room for both, obviously.
I've been a reporter for 20 years. I started out at the Chicago Tribune. I worked in Russia. I reported for Reuters from Afghanistan and from Chechnya. I ran a news bureau in China for 5 years. I was the head of the International Journalism Committee for the Society of Professional Journalists, and I ran the New England chapter. And I was a member of the Shanghai Foreign Correspondents Club when I was over there. There's a human tendency to see things as if they're getting worse when they're getting better. And this is because we are hardwired to look for bad news and to look for threats, because that's what could kill us. We're much less hardwired to look for the good news. It's a really embedded instinct. We're always thinking that things are getting worse, even if the things are actually getting better. Now, when you combine this with our current political polarization system in Fox News, which I hope to God is temporary, because basically it's imploding in and itself right now, and you combine it with the transformation of the media in many emerging countries, it is getting significantly better. It used to be a matter of course that national news organizations produced content that was press release releases for their countries, almost everywhere around the world except a few Western democracies. When I got to China, that was in fact the case. Over the course of those 5 years, we saw the emergence of maybe not a purely impartial, 100% impartial news media, because nobody's perfect, but that had these standards that looked at both sides or all three sides or however many sides of an issue there were, and they were separate of government control and authority. It's happening most in business, because when your money is at stake, you really don't want to have be reading lies. This in the finance and in technology. I mean, people are putting their own spin to it, but you really want to know what the facts are. It's with the fact checking that's available instantly, immediately through crowdsourcing organizations, through YouTube, through Twitter, means that it's really, really hard to put out a big lie. And it used to be really, really easy. It used to be that you could kill tens or hundreds of millions of people and nobody will know. Now you have a funny bus crash on the other side of the planet and everybody sees it on Twitter or everybody sees it on YouTube. It is a dramatic change in the news industry for the better. And often it's hard to see because we see the bad stuff because it's in our face. It's the Fox News or it's the liberal bias or whatever it is, and it gets us mad and it gets us really enraged. But you have to step back from it and you say, overall, the amount of information that I have on my fingertips through my choice of search engines or any other search engine that I want to use is so incredibly larger than anything that was available last year or 5 years ago or 20 years ago, that it's not even comparable. A kid with a smartphone in Central Africa has at his fingertips all the information in the world. It is an amazing time to be alive. It's an amazing time in the news industry. And okay, I've said my bit. All right.
I wish I could make it to Boston. It sounds like you got to shake them up quite a bit. Yes.
Is this going to be recorded? Because I'm looking forward to hearing it.
What's Maria's thing? I don't know.
Maria's thing in Boston.
I'm giving a similar talk on Future Shock for the VWBPE that's coming up. With
wonderful.
More of a focus towards education than the media. So that will be here in Second Life.
And that makes a perfect segue to our almost silent guest today, because Feenan, we're barely a month away. We're going to be meeting in the week to talk about sets and broadcasting and stuff. But you have a press release now, don't you? From
yeah. I mean, in terms of the silent part. I mean, heaven forbid I should interrupt either Maria or Crap in terms of. Because I mean, it's always
we'll beat you up. Yes.
Well, first of all, they'll beat me up, right? And I learned so much more by listening to both of these folks than by interrupting. Although on occasion, I just have to.
I was
really stupid in the middle to get the conversation going.
I was joking. Dialogue is what it's all about.
The virtual world's best practice in education. Yes. So, I mean, we were talking about changes in Linden Lab policy, I guess about an hour or so ago. And I think it's interesting because I think what we have to announce today, and it's already up on our website, but I think this is sort of a good sign, I think, of things to come. We have, for the conference, we have both Philip Rosedale and Ebbe Altberg as keynote speakers.
Oh, wonderful!
For the conference, and we've been trying for years to get a Linden to come back and speak at VWBPE, but what I was talking about when we were talking about Pathfinder leaving and then Claudia leaving. In terms of the educational liaison, right? I mean, we haven't had a Linden speak since I think Claudia and Terrence were the last ones, and I think that was 2008. And we haven't had a Linden since. And most other conferences have had the very same experience, where they've basically just been told, no interviews, no talking, no nothing, just you pretend the user base doesn't exist. And for this year, I mean, we went out on a limb and we contacted both Philip and Ebbe, and they both came back and said yes. So Philip is going to be our keynote speaker on April the 9th. And he's going to help us open up the conference, so to speak. And Ebbe is going to be talking on Friday at, I believe both of them are going to be at 1 o'clock. But I mean, Ebbe's going to be talking on Friday, which is going to be wonderful because we've also got a really nice featured panel with Bot Girl, Will Burns, myself, and Tab Scott to talk about some of the future direction of where some of this stuff may be heading. So, the timing of it actually works out really, really well, because Ebbe's going to be speaking on Friday, and then we're going to have this discussion on where hopefully things are going on Saturday morning. But we've got an awful lot of core speakers, and Maria is obviously one of them, that we've just announced on the website today. So we've also got, in addition to Philip and Ebbe, we've also got Justin Clark Kelly, who's going to be coming to speak, Andrew Hughes from Designing Digitally. We also have David Gibson, and we have Larissa, and I apologize because I am the worst person with names, and this is a very difficult last name for me to pronounce, but Nadolyn, Nadolyn. I have no idea how to pronounce that. I guess I'm going to have to learn between now and Saturday, because she's going to be our closing keynote speaker. But she's from Iowa State University, and she's been very deep into virtual worlds and how to use those for education. So, we've got our keynotes. The letters are going out. Well, they've already gone out to everybody in terms of confirming the other speakers, the other presenters that we're going to be having at the conference, and we should know, we should be able to publish a schedule hopefully inside the next 2 weeks, once we get everybody confirmed in terms of where it is that they want to be presenting. One of the core things for us that we're actually finding that we're, certain things are kind of exciting. I mean, having presenters of this caliber is always huge in terms of any particular type of conference. But every year we try to sort of do something a little bit better, right? We try to improve on different things that we've been doing. And this year, the biggest thing for us is the fact that we actually closed the call for proposals off 2 months ahead of the conference, which is something we've never done before. In previous years, we'd actually left it open, and in some cases as late up to 2 weeks before the conference date. And so one of the things that we'd get is from presenters who had submitted proposals is, well, when am I going to be told whether I'm accepted or not? So it's sort of like this year, it's like, no, we're going to do this, and notwithstanding any problems, we're going to stick to our guns. And what this is allowing us to do is, this is the first time, and Mal, I know you can probably verify this. This is the first time a month in advance, right? At least a month in advance, where we've been able to come and confirm schedule.
Yeah.
And for us, this is just amazing. I mean, we started to put in our own software last year in order to help with the peer reviews and with the submissions, and that's just been going beautifully for us. It's been working out a lot better than the software that we used to have before. And now we've got more process items that are in place. So, come next year, we're going to be able to open up the call for proposals a lot earlier than we did this year, and we'll be able to give people a lot more notice in terms of things that are going on. But it's going to be interesting because, I mean, while we've lost Cloud Party, there are so many other things that are coming up, and Maria's alluded to a lot of them, especially in the OpenSim environment, that are happening and are continuing to happen, and people are developing and people are taking notice of this technology.
And I imagine Philip was into set about high fidelity too, which is a whole different path.
I hope so, because I was reading one of his he was at a conference last year, and he was talking about it came up as part of that conference that Linden Lab is also partially funding high fidelity, which I didn't realize. I had thought that this was like Philip going off on a completely different tangent, and it's sort of like, to me, this is sounding as if one of the things that they're hoping to do, and this came up, I think, a couple of weeks ago as a theory, but to me, it's actually sounding more probable at this point, is, that what we're doing in Second Life may eventually morph into some of the things that they're doing, or some integration with the types of, lab type work that they're doing with high fidelity. And to see if this stuff is all going to go, I think is going to be just amazing in the next couple of years.
Yeah, I think it has, I mean, Second Life at the moment, I mean, but as you know from all the talk we have about this, that, and the other, it's stuck with legacy code. And, high fidelity is something completely new. And it's Second Life staggers on day by day, and it's durable. Hopefully will remain durable. But what Philip's doing now is like, it's the groundwork for, the broadband and things did not exist when Second Life really started. It's addressing all the new technologies that are available. So, it's no surprise that Linden have investment in it, as well as other investors, and he's planning long term, not the short term day-to-day stuff. And I think, Second Life could well be part of the overall structure he's aiming at.
It is. There was something that in one of the conferences a couple of years ago, I had gone on record as basically saying, look, people really shouldn't get too upset in terms of where we are with regards to the current virtual world technology, right? The way technology seems to stop and start has this tendency where you have a really cool technology is introduced at a particular point in time, but it's just way too early for anybody to really wrap their head around what's really going on with it. And, you get this hype, you get this pitfall, but if it's important, it then eventually has a resurgence, and you get these cycles between when something is introduced to the mass market and when it really takes hold inside the mass market, of this somewhere between 12 and 18 year cycle, right? Where, it doesn't really start to get into the, you can do things with it, until that particular point in time. And I've actually gone on record as saying that, I'm not worried about where we are with Second Life right at the moment, because to me, the Goldilocks zone where this stuff is really going to start to take off is between 2018 and 2020. And, if some of the things that are coming along, I mean, we're looking at Oculus Rift, which is just now starting to come about. We're talking about new tools, which are going to be able to make NPC characters a lot more easier to create with inside these environments. We're being able to package up things like OpenSim in a much more comprehensive details. The tools are starting to come. The tools that we were missing 5, 10, and we're still missing today to a certain extent. But those tools that are really going to make this environment vibrant are just now starting to make their way into the development cycle, right? Which means that come 3 to 4 years from now, right, we're really going to be able to see the product of what's going to happen over the next couple of years as people continue to develop with those tools. So I'm really sort of excited because, I mean, as we've been going through this, we've been sort of sitting on this technology, which we know is important because we've experienced it. And we know it's important to the classroom. We know it's important to business. We know it's important to social interaction. But it's been overshadowed by mobile. It's been overshadowed by, what people are considering to be the cloud, right? And to a certain extent, maybe that's not a bad thing, because what will eventually come out of this is going to be able to take advantage of a lot of the best things that we've learned from these other technologies and be able to incorporate it into something that hopefully is going to be far more.
Getting a bit lag on. Did we
Speaking
lose?
of mobile, I want to, well, while he's coming back, I want to say that we wouldn't have the Oculus Rift and similar devices without mobile, because those screens, those accelerometers, all that stuff is made possible by the growth and the huge investment of the mobile industry. The Siri and similar progress in artificial intelligence and voice recognition, which is going to be hugely important for virtual worlds as we get away from the mouse and keyboard to natural interfaces. I mean, it's going to have a dramatic impact.
You know, we have a very. I'm just laughing at Dirk in chat room saying where he wants a nanobot interface with optic nerves and ears. Yeah, good luck, Dirk. You probably get one in the end if you're still alive when it comes.
Are you kidding me?
No,
yes.
no.
Me?
No, what's going to happen is there'll be a fad for these implants, and then 2 years later, a bigger fad for getting them removed because they're obsolete. Yes.
It's like tattoos as well, isn't it? You
yes,
know what you do. Dear. Sorry,
I've got to cut through the BS here.
Yeah.
All this stuff, all these technologies, all these headsets, all this stuff. Seriously? Really? No. Khan Academy. Very simple. Khan Academy. Cut through all that crap and implants. You don't need an implant. You don't need a headset. You can take that stuff offline, distribute it to third world, fourth world for lesson plans. You can monitor this stuff. It's Creative Commons. It's open. It has the backing of a lot of major backers, as opposed to this pie in the sky bull crap. All this, we want this, and you're trying to make the buggy whip into a coffee stirrer. It's not happening. Education, virtual worlds, it's not there yet. It has its really minor niche with Heritage Key had a good use for it, where you could explore an Egyptian dig and look around and see things in situ and roll back the clock and see what things were the way they were back when. But as for this other stuff, traditional teaching, all you're doing is replacing the failed teacher, students, and desks model, unless there's interactive and there are superior and less expensive ways, but it's not happening. Khan Academy is the model that most people will use for distribution.
Yeah, I mean the virtual world thing we can't really know about, but the long term, it's a niche, and it does allow for that immersion. But it's what I'm fascinated about is the future path where these technologies merge. Which ones will grab the public imagination and be picked up, and pardon me, which ones won't? And we talk a lot about OpenSim and the hybrid grid because we like the idea that all grids will be connected and they'll be easy to teleport just as easily as the web. And we're thinking of the HTTP model, if you like, but the idea that you'll have peer-to-peer sharing and the whole back-end system of internet communications will change in the future is something we rarely address. There might be something that makes such same fundamental change that the web did. And, we look now at web pages, interactive sites, all sorts of things. All these are built on basically what was the web. Now, if something else comes along that it takes that to a whole new other level, that will, of course, be where the new building starts. And it's all progressing so rapidly. It's really fascinating. The way it will go.
Mel.
Yeah. Sure. Right. Okay. That's yes. I just have to.
All right.
Yeah, sorry, I was saying my rant. Carry on, folks. I'll just get felon.
For me, the interesting thing about the Khan Academy, like the news thing I was talking about earlier, is that it's coming out of left field. It's not the existing educational institutions taking advantage of online delivery of information. It's these nonprofits, these startups, this guy with an idea. And the existing, I mean, if a few schools are starting to look at the flipped classroom, where the kids go home and they get the material from Khan and similar platforms, and then at school the teachers help them through this stuff that they weren't able to get online by themselves. But moving forward is the internet is radically changing this delivery of information, and the metaverse is going to radically change the delivery of experiences. And you mentioned Heritage Key is one of these experiences. I mean, the metaverse isn't necessarily great for delivering information. The internet is excellent for delivering information, but it falls apart when trying to deliver experiences, like walking through a historical site, like putting together an engine, like experiencing an ecosystem and investigating it. So there's a whole bunch of experiences that aren't even possible in the traditional classroom that are going to be opened up for the entire world, no matter where people are located, and that now are only able to the richest people who are able to go on architecture digs or send their students to these various places, to send them to Paris for a month and stuff like that. So the stuff that educational experiences that are only available to the rich or to the few people who get the right internships, those experiences could become broadly available. And I think that's going to be amazingly. Now, 20 now it's not going to come tomorrow. It's going to become like 12 or 18 or 25 years from now. But I think it's going to be happening. I think it's going to be a very massive change in our educational system as a result.
The challenge there, however, is going to be, and this is what I've been saying all the way along here, is that right now to provide those types of experiences, you have to go through a brute force effort in order to create those dynamic environments. I mean, to create a recreation of Rome, for example, circa Caesar's time, takes an incredible amount of effort in order to develop those particular types of things. And if you want to populate that with NPC type characters to really give students an immersive experience, well, the tools are just not there. I mean, it's nice that Linden Lab came out with this pathing thing that they've got here, but I mean, it's still not at the level that it needs to be, and it needs to be brought down such that the individual teacher or instructor can go in and they can develop an environment over a weekend rather than having to basically say, I'd like to do this program. By the way, I'm going to need a team of 20 for 6 months before I'm going to be able to do it. And that's essentially where we are right at the moment. To put together these environments, unless you happen to have the skill set to be able to do all of these things, and there's, I mean, I could do something like that. I know there's a few other people that I know that have the skills that they could touch on all of these type of things, but most people have maybe 1 or 2 skills out of 20 that they need to build an environment like that. Right. And, it costs like $50,000 to $75,000 minimum to put together a decent experience. And so the cost is still too high. We still, like, this is why I'm saying, I mean, what I'm interested in, like what Philips is doing with high fidelity is going to be really interesting in terms of how far they can take the virtual reality thing. But what I'm really interested in is what are the tools that come along with that? What is going to allow us to create our own NPC characters, to rapidly develop Rome, or to be able to walk through the old Library of Alexandria, or to see what it was for the Aborigines in Australia in terms of how they've lived over the last 5,000 years. I mean, to be able to create those types of environments, to do it simply, and to bring it down such that any teacher, right, who's willing to put in a little bit of effort to understand how the tools work, will be able to do this. And this is one of the great things that Philip did with Second Life was he made the tools accessible. And I know there's a lot of people out there that say, oh, it's too complicated. But if you compare it to what happened before Second Life came along, you want to see complicated?
Yeah.
That was complicated. That was complicated, right? The tools that he gave us made virtual worlds accessible. And that was the huge success of Second Life. It wasn't the fact that we got to do a virtual world. It's that he took all these different things that we were playing around, like we were playing around with IRC, we were playing around with Usenet, we were playing around with virtual worlds, we were playing around with voice. He brought them into a single platform, and then he made the tools accessible. And yes, it took a week to get used to the interface. And yes, it would have taken another couple of weeks to get used to where all the tools were placed. But once you got the hang of where everything was, it was like, hey, I can do that. No problem.
Yeah. I mean, it takes you a week to learn Microsoft Word. It's called learning.
It is. And people want things spoon-fed to them, and it's sort of like, no, sorry, if you come to this environment, be prepared to use your brain, because if you're going to come here and just turn your brain off, then what's the point? You go play World of Warcraft, right? I mean, it's just,
it's not a game.
This environment's not for you.
I think if we wait long enough, we're going to have a situation where we're going to have something like Wikipedia or Google Globe covering all the global environments throughout all of human history, where people can just take their classes and go and visit this, and it's out there. And as the price of computers falls, as the price of storage falls, and the new quantum computers come online, it's going to be way more feasible to do.
I read a blog post yesterday. In fact, I might have published it, or it wouldn't have been on my Twitter feed. It would have been somewhere else. But I think it's in Paris. There's some ancient building you can go to. You just point your mobile camera at it, and you can then select a date and time to view the simulation. So you point your camera at this, I don't know, cathedral or something, and then you can choose a year in time and go back and view a simulation, what it looked like at that year. So it
would be really cool in Cologne, Germany, because I've been there a couple of times, and every time I go there, they've got this massive, the Cologne Cathedral is surrounded by all this modern architecture that just keeps encroaching on the walls of this cathedral. And it would be really cool to basically say, okay, can I see who the idiots were that actually allowed them to take up all the green space around this church? Not because I'm a fan of churches, but it's just, I'm not religious, but I mean, this is just wonderful architecture to look at. And yet 5 feet away from it is
a monstrosity.
It's steel and glass monstrosity. And it's sort of like, who the heck approved that?
Yep. Like, this is the only use I can acknowledge for Google Glasses. The only use.
Yes, they would come in useful there. Google contact lenses, or preferably not something other than just Google. Actually,
are you allowed to drive with them though?
Sorry?
Are you allowed to drive with them?
Well, I think it depends where you live. I know that people have been busted for driving with them. But other places,
well, yeah, but is it really a cell phone? I mean, is it?
I think I think the jury is still very much out on that one.
Because there's people I know that you put on Google Glasses, and if it's got directional turn-by-turn navigation like right there, I know people that absolutely need something like that.
Yeah, well, it's like an advanced sat nav in some ways. The like Apple this week had launched their iPad, the in-car or whatever they're calling it. It's the the in-car iPad. And certain motor manufacturers are sort of building it into the system, and but it strikes me, it's a matter of health and safety, really. I mean, if you get distracted by the pad, which is right near your windshield, I mean, you've got to keep your eye on both roads. I think one day you'll have a transparent 3D screen on your windscreen.
No, by the time we get the contact lenses in. With the computers on them, the cars will be self-driving. It'll be a moot point.
I was just thinking
there we go.
That, but the idea that those translucent things, if they have one advantage, if they're built right, and that is that you can actually access information in front of you without without taking your eyes off the road or taking your eyes off the environment. Whereas with most mobile technology at the moment, we shift our attention away to the device. And I think there is some promise in the idea that you have a system that somehow gives you that information in front of you without actually distracting you from the very thing you're focused on and need, in many cases, to be focused on. But that's okay. Now I'm actually becoming conscious of the time. This is what happens when you take 2 weeks off. You've got to show that you have. This has been a wonderful talk, actually. I'd like to just. What I'm thinking is if I can go back quickly around everybody and see if we've got anything else to bring up for the end of the week, like coming events and stuff. Is Crap still here? Are you still here, Crap?
Yeah, I'm still.
Oh here. Yeah. Sorry, I'm looking at the camera. They can't tell me what's what at the moment. I'm just seeing myself. Yeah. Any other things, Crap, that are on your mind, or any events?
You don't want to go there.
Yeah, probably not. Any.
It's best if no. Everything's fine. Everything's wonderful. Finished the podcast this morning. Got the writing out. Still one a day until the day I die. Keeping it going.
Right, and lots of exciting events happening at Edlow and nowhere.
Not really. It's actually rather quiet, and I like it that way.
And Tara's got a nice new forest of sorts there now too. So it's all changed. It's all changed.
Beautiful. You've done. It is amazing. I love it. It is beautiful. It's a nice flow from my park. It's a flow from Feline's part to the mountain. You really brought it together. I am glad that you're there. Everyone was like, oh my God, it's like, no, oh, please. And just finally, it is beautiful. Chibi in the Northwest. It is a beautiful place to look, and don't put it in the destination guide because I don't want 10,000
we don't want to lag.
Every time some jerk puts something in the destination guide and then it gets stuck and then people flood in and everyone there, it's like, no, I want folks to go there because someone told them, hey, it's very nice. No, I don't want the unwashed masses there. Really? Seriously? No.
That's one of my favorite things in Second Life. Sometimes I don't spend as much time in there as I should now, but just going to a location at random and finding a nice empty sim with nobody on it, it is a dream, because you can just, especially as a pussycat avatar, I can just glide around at fast speed. I can see everything. I can appreciate it all, If I want to go to where people are, that's fine too. But, if you just want to look at nice builds and landscapes and get lost in the beauty of it all, and that certainly qualifies over there. So great stuff. Okay. Maria.
What?
Have we got anything else that we haven't mentioned yet? I've got my eye on the time. I have.
Well, there's a bunch of upcoming events, parties, whatever happening on various grids. Tons of live music. I did a roundup week and a half ago at the beginning of the month about what stuff that's happening. Visit the website, check it out.
Yeah. Hypergridbusiness.com.
And I'm putting out a new report in a week with all new statistics and news announcements. So if you have them, email them to me.
Wonderful. Right. We haven't got a super amount of time to go over destinations and things today. Petlove, though, what's you tend to have a good eye on things like LEA and stuff like that. I've been very opening stone things. Anything you've got to recommend or exciting coming up? Oh yeah. Right. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I think I've got a fairly good feeling about that, but you never know until it happens. So, Felon,
Yes.
anything else? I think we've covered all there.
Well,
VWPP is certainly
well, I,
exciting, but
well, I'm hoping we're going to generate some buzz because I mean, like I said, this is going to be one of the best opportunities to see both Philip and Ebbe,
yeah.
you know, as part of the conference. And like I said, we do have a lot of other really great keynote speakers, and that the first part of that information is up on the website. We're actually going to every couple of days now we're going to be publishing more information about the keynotes and their bios and what their subjects and their abstracts are going to be. So you know, literally every couple of days, the website's going to get updated at this point. So, you know, people really want to pay attention to what's going on there because we're going to have, unlike previous years, we're going to have more information than what people have been asking for in terms of what's going to be there. And so, you know, keep an eye out for that. There's still spots open for sponsors if people want to help sponsor the conference, and we're always looking for volunteers. So the volunteer form is up, and like I said, I mean, we're really looking to this conference because I think it's going to be really, you know, it's a little bit smaller in terms of the number of presentations, but I think we've got some really, really exciting and dynamic people this year, and it's going to be well worth being there for this year.
It always has been. Talking of which, it isn't just today I got messed up with my time zones. I actually TP'd over there for a meeting earlier in the week, and I'd obviously got it wrong. I've obviously been to the Sims, but are those Sims open to the public yet? If people want to have a look around, or are they just? I know they're online now, aren't they?
The Sims are online, and we are probably going to be opening them up on, we'll be opening up the gateway for sure on April 2nd to the public. Right. Certainly those people that are doing poster presentations that are going to have to come in and do some building, that'll be open to them probably March 31st, thereabouts. So starting that, 10 days before, you know, they should be open to people to come in and do their little poster, do the poster plots up and what have you. But we are fortunately or unfortunately, it depends upon how you want to look at this. The building team that designed that wonderful steampunk layout for us.
Oh yeah, which you have for what, 3 years, isn't it?
We've used it for about 3 years now, and the design team that did that, they're coming back together and they're going to be doing a completely brand new quad design for us. So, I don't even know what it's going to look like. We've just given them complete creative control like we did last time and just basically said, you got 4 Sims to work with. Just go forth and be beautiful and imagine it. So, we're hopefully, it's, I'm hoping that we're going to open up the quad so that people can come and see that maybe a day or 2 days before the conference, but we're going to sort of, keep it closed for the time being and just let them do their work and
of course.
Let the creative juices flow type of thing.
Great. Okay, well, we've had a lot of exciting news this week. I'm going to pass on things like destinations and stuff, and maybe we'll have a bit more focus on that on the next show. Tara, any closing thoughts and your summaries?
Just a couple things. First off, thank you, Crap, for your kind words about my build, my little corner of Edlow. And you may be pleased to know that there will be some spring flowers blooming there very shortly, having been out and discovered some wonderful items in the way of daffodils and crocus. And you will see some of that in front here along with all the copycats. Of course, that event is continuing. The at Country Club is the name of the sim where the gotcha event is going on. If you can get in, with lots of other fun items there. And just kind of a parting, my additional kind of me too on Ebbe and all that. I have to say that I have been perhaps most heartened by a couple of times that I've heard or read him comment, noting the passion of Second Life users. He gets that. I think he gets that profoundly. He understands that the absolute top best of class marketing any company can have is passionate users. It's what made Apple. It's what continues to make Apple. It will pick Apple if anything does, and there it is. So, on that note, I'm optimistic. Obviously, time will tell, but he's been making the right moves of things that I think he has had direct control over, and I think we're going to see more good stuff in coming weeks. That's it for me.
Oh,
wonderful
great
discussion today.
It is. I'm actually feel exhausted. You know, this is the way Sundays are meant to be. I'm meant to be at the verge of collapse after a wonderful and exhilarating conversation every Sunday.
Better than church. Better than church.
Oh my goodness gracious me, yes. I'm not going there, crap. There are some things I keep out of my conversations. It's like all the things that politicians go for, you know, or don't go. You know, politics, religion,
Right.
babies. You know, don't get yourself into trouble. Anyway, it's been an absolutely great conversation, and we will be continuing in the future. I hope to have all my guests back in the very near future. Whether we're here next week, I'm not 100% sure, but I suspect we might well be. We're still doing a bit of rejigging behind the scenes, but at some point, there's going to be a nice new exciting looking set behind us. You know, we've got to change everything now and again, otherwise we'd become stuck in a rut. Not stuck in the metaverse, just stuck in a rut, you know. So I'd like to thank all my guests. Firstly, Crap Mariner. Thank you, Crap.
It was great to be here. Thank you.
And thank you, Petlove. Thank you for being here and being on camera. Oh, well, never mind. Never mind. You had a break. You had a break. And wonderful job on camera as always too. Very much. And thank you, Maria. Great to have you back again.
Thank you for having me, and
Yeah.
sorry about losing track of the time zone issue thing there.
Well, you aren't the only one. Linden Labs, in case you missed it at the beginning, Linden Labs did it themselves. The Second Life grid has been on the wrong time all morning. So it's the weekend. What do you expect?
So I'm not the only one.
You're
Yes.
you're not the only one at all. I think we all got a bit confused one way or another. And and lastly, thank you, Felon. Kevin Feenan, Felon Korolov. Kevin.
I'll just show up with my Kevin Feenan avatar at some point.
Yeah, it's Kevin Feenan. Oops, hang on, that's not right. It's like you crediting broadcasting companies. You always get them mixed up. Never mind. I didn't say that. Right, okay. It's just been a great conversation. So hopefully we're back next week. Certainly we'll be back within a couple of weeks. And I hope you've all enjoyed the show. You can find this available for replay, not only on the Real Virtuosity's channel here, where we go out live as part of Metaverse Weekend Review, but you can also find it in embed on YouTube, or indeed you can watch it on AVU TV, who have an Inworld HUD you can watch it on, and a live stream as well, all over the place, really. So hope you all enjoy it. If you're listening in replay, you'll enjoy even more. And we will be back whenever we are back. I think that's it. Yes, he says. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that. Thanks for watching, everybody. And until next time, I'm about to log us out. And I will just wait for Q. Yes, he says. Okay, I'm going to leave it at that. Thanks for watching, everybody. And until next time, I'm about And cut.
All right.